The contract felt heavier in my hands than it should have. I signed my name Scott Quinn on the dotted line, and something inside me whispered that I'd just sold more than my time. The estate stretched before me like a palace from another life, one I'd never belonged to, but I needed this job desperately, needed the money, needed to disappear from the world that was hunting me down. My older brother's debt collectors didn't care that I had nothing to do with his gambling mess. They just wanted blood or cash, and I had neither. So here I stood, about to become invisible in plain sight, working as a maid in a mansion that could house 50 families. You start tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. The housekeeper, Mrs. Lang, didn't smile when she handed me the uniform, a crisp white shirt and black slacks that felt too expensive for someone like me. I took them with trembling fingers, nodded quickly, and left before she could see how terrified I really was. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in my tiny apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking about the name I'd seen on the contract, Caspian Hale. The man who owned that massive house. The man I'd be working for, though I'd probably never see him up close. I'd heard stories everyone had. Cold as winter steel, ruthless in business, crushing competitors without a second thought. Some said he never smiled, that his face was carved from marble. Others whispered he'd lost someone years ago and never recovered, that his heart had turned to stone. I didn't care about rumors or gossip. I just needed to stay invisible, do my work, collect my paycheck, and survive. The first morning arrived too quickly. I reached the estate at 5:50, giving myself extra time to mentally prepare. The house was eerily silent, holding its breath in the pre-dawn darkness. Everything about it screamed wealth and loneliness in equal measure. I started in the kitchen, scrubbing counters that were already spotless, organizing cabinets that didn't need organizing. Then I moved to the hallways, dusting frames, polishing floors until I could see my reflection. Everything had to be perfect. Miss Lang had made that crystal clear during my brief orientation. Mr. Hale expects perfection, not excellence, perfection. Any mistakes and you're gone. At 7 o'clock sharp, I saw him for the first time. He descended the grand staircase like he owned the world, which technically he did. Black suit tailored to precision, dark hair styled perfectly, expensive watch catching the morning light. But what stopped me cold were his eyes. Dark, bottomless, and completely empty, like someone had reached inside and scooped out everything that made him human. He glanced at me, just a flicker of acknowledgement, then continued past as if I were part of the furniture. Invisible, just like I wanted, except my heart was racing for reasons I couldn't explain. Mr. Hale, I managed to say, keeping my head bowed respectfully. He stopped, turned slowly to face me. You're new. Yes, sir. Scott Quinn. I started today. He didn't respond immediately, just studied me with those penetrating eyes, and I felt like he could see every secret I was hiding, every lie I'd told to get this job, every reason I was running. The silence stretched between us like a living thing. Then, without another word, he walked away. I stood there frozen, hands shaking slightly. What just happened? Why did I feel like I'd been stripped bare in those few seconds? By afternoon, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined the intensity of that moment. I was in the library, carefully dusting ancient books, when I heard footsteps behind me. I hadn't heard him approach. He moved like a shadow. Do you think you can hide here forever? His voice was low, dangerous, coming from directly behind me. My heart stopped. I turned slowly to find him standing impossibly close. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, sandalwood mixed with something darker. Something that made my head spin. I don't understand what you mean, sir. Your eyes tell stories you're trying to bury. He moved closer, and I instinctively stepped back until the bookshelf pressed against my spine. They scream that you're running from something. So tell me, Scott, do you really believe this house will protect you from whatever you're hiding from? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only stare into those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through to my damaged soul. He turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. Next time you lie, at least have the courage to look me in the eye when you do it. The door clicked shut. I slid down to the floor, my legs giving out. This man knew too much, saw too much, and I couldn't tell if he was going to be my destruction or my salvation. Maybe both. Probably both. The rest of that first day passed in a blur of anxiety and hyper-awareness. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow made me think he was there. Watching, analyzing, peeling back my carefully constructed walls. I cleaned rooms that didn't need cleaning. Organized spaces that were already organized. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind from spiraling. Mrs. Lang found me in the dining room at 6, polishing silver that gleamed already. "You can go home now. Your shift ended an hour ago." I just wanted to make sure everything was perfect. She raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Hale has that effect on people. Makes them think they're never doing enough. But you did fine today. Go home, rest. Tomorrow will be just as demanding." I gathered my things and headed for the service exit, but something made me glance back at the house. There, in a third-floor window, I saw him. Caspian Hale stood watching me, his silhouette dark against the lit room behind him. Even from this distance, I could feel the weight of his gaze. I turned away quickly and hurried to the bus stop, my heart pounding. What had I gotten myself into? This was supposed to be simple work quietly. Stay invisible, earn money, pay off my brother's debts, and eventually disappear to somewhere safe. But nothing about Caspian Hale felt simple. Nothing about the way he looked at me suggested I could stay invisible. And nothing about my reaction to him suggested this job would be anything like I'd planned. As the bus carried me away from the estate, I stared out the window at the city lights and made myself a promise. I would keep my distance. I would do my job perfectly and professionally. I would not let him get under my skin. Even as I made that promise, I knew it was already broken. Because in just one day, Caspian Hale had seen more of me than anyone had in years. And the terrifying part, some small, reckless part of me wanted him to keep looking. The next week felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. I developed an entire system of avoidance. If Caspian was in the living room, I'd work in the kitchen. If he was in his office, I'd be upstairs. If he was downstairs, I'd find reasons to be on the third floor. It should have worked. It would have worked with anyone else. But somehow, he always found me. Like he had a radar specifically tuned to my presence. "Running again, Scott." His voice caught me one evening in the East Wing. I'd been certain he was in a business meeting downtown. The house should have been mine for another 2 hours. I spun around, nearly dropping the vase I was holding. "Mr. Hale, I thought you were out." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I was." The meeting ended early. Bad deal. Worse company. He moved closer, hands in his pockets. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been doing my job." "You've been orchestrating an elaborate dance to never be in the same room as me." His eyes held mine. "Why?" "I'm not, that's not." I stumbled over my words like a teenager. There it is again. That look. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he was determined to solve. Fear mixed with something else. Something you won't name. I forced myself to meet his gaze. "With all due respect, sir. I'm here to work. Nothing more." Respect. He tested the word like it tasted bitter. You hide behind that word, but your eyes say something entirely different. He turned away abruptly. "Finish your work. And Scott, stop running. This house isn't that big." He left me standing there, pulse racing, wondering how he managed to unravel me with just a few words. Everything changed 2 days later. I was in the garden, watering the roses that lined the stone pathway, when Mrs. Lang burst through the back door. Her usual composed demeanor had shattered completely. "Scott, thank God. It's Mr. Hale, he's sick. High fever. Won't let anyone into his room. Won't call a doctor. He's being absolutely impossible." My stomach dropped. "What about can't you?" "He refuses to see me." Yelled at the day nurse until she left crying. Mrs. Lang gripped my arm. "You need to try. I don't know why, but he might listen to you." "Me? That doesn't make any sense. He barely knows me. Please. I can't leave him like this." Against every self-preservation instinct I had, I found myself climbing the stairs to the top floor. His bedroom door was heavy oak, intimidating. I knocked softly. No answer. Knocked again, harder. Still nothing. I opened the door anyway. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the afternoon sun. Caspian lay in bed, covers tangled around him, hair damp with sweat, skin unnaturally pale. He looked vulnerable in a way that made my chest ache. I told everyone to leave, he rasped without opening his eyes. And everyone listened. But I'm not everyone. I approached the bed cautiously. You need help. I don't need anything from you. But his voice lacked conviction, weakened by fever. I touched his forehead and yanked my hand back. He was burning up. You're sick. Really sick. Let me at least get you some water. Cool cloths. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist weakly. Don't go. The words hung between us, raw and unexpected. I looked down at his face and saw his eyes were open now, glassy with fever but desperately focused on me. Please, he whispered. Just stay. So I stayed. I spent the entire night by his bedside, replacing cool cloths on his forehead, coaxing him to drink water, keeping watch as fever dreams made him restless. He mumbled things I couldn't quite catch. Names, apologies, fragments of conversations from another time. Once in the darkest hours before dawn, his hand found mine and gripped it tight. Mason, I'm sorry. So sorry. Mason. The name from his fever dreams. Someone important. Someone who'd left scars. I didn't ask questions, just held his hand and let him know in whatever way I could that he wasn't alone in this moment. When morning light finally crept through the curtains, his fever broke. His eyes opened clearer now, and the first thing he saw was me sitting in the chair beside his bed, exhausted but still there. You stayed. It wasn't a question. You asked me to. Something shifted in his expression, surprise maybe, or confusion. He still held my hand, and this time he didn't let go. Instead, his thumb traced small circles on my skin, absent-minded and intimate. Scott. My name on his lips sounded different than it ever had before. Softer. Real. You're dangerous. What? A surprised laugh escaped me. I'm the least dangerous person in this house. No. He shook his head slightly. You're the most dangerous. Because you make me feel things. Things I buried a long time ago. Things I swore I'd never feel again. My breath caught. We were crossing a line, both of us aware of it, neither of us pulling back. I should go. Let you rest. Don't. His grip on my hand tightened. Not yet. We stayed like that as the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the room. Neither of us speaking. Both of us knowing that something fundamental had shifted between us. The careful distance I'd maintained was gone. The cold wall he kept around himself had cracked, and we were both terrified of what that meant. Later, after I'd finally convinced him to eat something and take proper medicine, I went downstairs to find Mrs. Lang. She took one look at my face and smiled knowingly. He let you stay. He was sick, delirious. It didn't mean anything. Keep telling yourself that. She patted my shoulder, but we both know it meant everything. I didn't respond because she was right. Everything had changed in one fevered night. And as I went about the rest of my day, trying to focus on mundane tasks, I couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at me, the way he'd held my hand, the way his voice had wrapped around my name. When evening came, I found a note on my workstation in the staff room. Simple, elegant handwriting on expensive paper. Thank you for staying. I folded the note carefully and tucked it into my pocket, my heart doing strange things in my chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to stay invisible, uninvolved, safe behind my walls. But Caspian Hale had seen through every defense I had. And the most terrifying part, I wasn't sure I wanted to rebuild them anymore. After that night, everything transformed in subtle, undeniable ways. Caspian started seeking me out. Not obviously, but in small moments. He'd appear in whatever room I was working in, standing quietly in the doorway. Sometimes he'd ask simple questions. How do you take your coffee? Or have you eaten today? Other times he'd just watch me work with an intensity that made my hands shake. The careful distance between employer and employee began to blur, and I wasn't sure when it happened or how to stop it. Wasn't even sure I wanted to. One evening I was in the library reorganizing the fiction section when I heard him enter. I didn't need to turn around. I'd become attuned to his presence. Could feel it like electricity in the air. You alphabetize obsessively, he observed, moving closer. Organization helps me think. Or stops you from thinking. He was right behind me now. You work constantly. More hours than required. Take on tasks that aren't your responsibility. Why? I kept my eyes on the books, afraid of what he'd see if I looked at him. I like to stay busy. That's not an answer. His hand closed gently around my wrist, stopping my nervous arranging. Talk to me, Scott. Really talk to me. The touch undid something inside me. I turned to face him, and suddenly he was too close. Close enough that I could count the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough that his breath ghosted across my cheek. You want the truth? My voice came out rougher than intended. I work constantly because if I stop, I think. And if I think, I remember why I'm here, what I'm running from. How temporary all of this is. I think about how dangerous it is to be near you. How every conversation we have feels like playing with fire. I stopped, breathing hard. I think about how badly I want to stop running, even though I know I can't. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. His eyes searched mine, and I saw my own conflict mirrored there. Want versus wisdom, desire versus self-preservation. What if I told you, he said quietly, his hand moving from my wrist to cup my jaw, that I feel exactly the same way? Then we're both in trouble. I've been in trouble since the day you walked into this house. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I couldn't suppress the shiver that ran through me. You look at me like I'm human, Scott. Not a business asset, not a reputation, not a bank account. Just, do you have any idea how rare that is? How terrifying? Caspian. His name felt forbidden on my lips. I know this is wrong. I know I'm your employer and you work for me, and there are 1,000 reasons why this can't happen. His forehead touched mine, and I felt his control wavering. But I also know that when you're not here, this house feels empty. When you are here, I can breathe again. Tell me you don't feel it too. I should have lied. Should have pulled away, reinforced the boundaries, protected us both. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. The kiss started gentle, hesitant, both of us testing unknown waters. But then his hands were in my hair and mine were gripping his shirt, and gentle became desperate, became necessary, became the only thing that made sense in a world that had stopped making sense weeks ago. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, his eyes held mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. This changes everything, he murmured against my lips. I know. We can't take it back. I don't want to. He kissed me again, deeper this time, like he was memorizing the taste of me, the feel of me. When we separated, he rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed. I need you to understand something. This isn't casual for me. I don't do casual. If we cross this line completely, I'm all in. Completely. Possibly obsessively. That should scare me, I admitted. But it doesn't. It terrifies me. But not for the reasons it should. We stood there in the library, holding each other, both aware we'd just stepped off a cliff together. No safety net, no guarantee of where we'd land. The following days felt like living in a dream. We hid our relationship from Mrs. Lang, from the staff, from the world. During the day, I was still the maid, still professional, still keeping appropriate distance. But at night, after everyone else had gone home, Caspian would come to my small room in the staff quarters. We'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. He told me about building his business from nothing, about the loneliness that came with success, about how he'd learned to prefer solitude because it hurt less than connection. I told him about my family, my brother's mistakes, the debt collectors, the fear that had become my constant companion. Tell me about Mason, I asked one night, lying with my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His body tensed immediately. How do you know that name? You said it when you had the fever. You apologized to him. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Mason was my first love. College. We were young, stupid, thought we'd conquer the world together. His voice dropped. Then one day he was just gone. No explanation, no goodbye. I looked for him for months, eventually realized he didn't want to be found. I'm sorry. He taught me that love was just another form of loss. His arms tightened around me. That opening yourself up to someone gives them the power to destroy you. So I stopped opening up, stopped letting them in close. He tilted my chin up to look at him. Until you. Why me? Because you're as broken as I am. Because you understand what it's like to run from pain. Because when I look at you, I see someone who gets it. He kissed me softly. And because despite every logical reason not to, I'm falling for you. My heart stopped. Started. Raced. Caspian. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But I wanted to say it, wanted to tell him that I was falling too, that he'd become the best part of my days, that thinking about leaving this house now felt like contemplating losing a limb. I didn't say it though, because the next morning everything shattered. I was in the garden when they found me. 3 men, faces I recognized from nightmares. My brother's debt collectors, Scott Quinn, finally tracked you down. Terror froze me in place. I can pay. Just give me more time. Time's up. The leader pulled out a knife, letting it catch the sunlight. Money or blood? Your choice. Please. I just need. Is there a problem here? Caspian's voice cut through my panic like a blade. He stood at the garden entrance, expression cold and dangerous. This doesn't concern you, the leader said. When you're on my property threatening my staff, it absolutely concerns me. Caspian walked toward us with zero fear. How much does he owe? 500,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. Caspian, no, you can't. 500,000. He said it like it was pocket change. Give me your banking information. You'll have it tomorrow. The men stared in shock. You're serious? I don't joke about money. His cold gaze swept over them. But if you ever come near him again, if you so much as think his name, I will destroy you. Understood? They practically tripped over themselves, giving him the details and fleeing. Once they were gone, Caspian turned to me. The hurt in his eyes cut deeper than any knife could. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you involved. Involved? His voice rose. Scott, I would do anything for you. Anything. But you didn't trust me enough to tell me you were in danger. I was trying to protect you. By lying, by hiding, you promised me no more running. He stepped closer and I saw tears in his eyes. Do you know what it's like to realize the person you're falling in love with doesn't trust you enough to ask for help? I do trust you. No. He shook his head. If you did, you would have told me. You would have let me help instead of carrying this alone. He walked away, leaving me standing in the garden, broken and sobbing, knowing I'd just lost the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was too scared to believe I deserved it. I tried everything to talk to Caspian. Left notes under his office door. Waited in hallways I knew he'd pass through. Caught glimpses of him disappearing around corners like a ghost haunting his own house. But he was a master at avoidance, and I was paying the price for my silence. The house felt colder now. Emptier. Even though he was there, he wasn't. Not for me. A week crawled by in agonizing silence. Then one morning, Mrs. Lang pulled me aside in the kitchen, her expression unreadable. Mr. Hale transferred the money yesterday. The debt collectors confirmed receipt. You're free now. Free. The word should have brought relief. Instead, it felt like a prison sentence. Did he say anything? She shook her head. He's been locked in his study for days. Barely eating. Won't see anyone. Her eyes softened with something like pity. Whatever happened between you two, it's eating him alive. That made 2 of us. That night I couldn't take it anymore. I stood outside his bedroom door for 20 minutes, gathering courage, before finally knocking. Caspian? I need to talk to you, please. Silence. I know you're angry. I know I should have told you. But please just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. His voice came through the door, flat and lifeless. You made your position clear. That's not fair. You don't understand. Then make me understand. The door flew open suddenly. And there he stood. He looked terrible. Hair disheveled. Eyes bloodshot, still wearing yesterday's shirt. Tell me what I'm missing, Scott, because from where I'm standing, the person I was falling for didn't trust me enough to share the most important thing in his life. The accusation hit like a physical blow. I was trying to protect you. From what? From helping someone I care about? From being useful to someone I... He stopped himself, jaw clenching. You know what the worst part is? I would have given you that money the day we met if you'd asked. No questions, no condition, but you chose to hide it, to carry that burden alone. To lie to me every single day. I wasn't lying. Omission is still lying. His voice cracked. I opened up to you. Told you about Mason, about my past. About things I've never told anyone. And you couldn't do the same. Tears burned my eyes. You want to know the truth? I was terrified. Terrified that if you knew how broken I was, how much of a mess my life is, you'd realize I wasn't worth it. That I wasn't worth $500,000. Or your time. Or my voice broke. Your love. He stared at me, something shifting in his expression. You think that little of yourself? Or that little of me? Both. Neither. I don't know. I wiped at my eyes angrily. All I know is that everyone I've ever loved has left. My parents, my brother in his own way, everyone. And you're this incredible person with this incredible life, and I'm just the maid with the criminal brother and the mountain of debt. Why would you want someone like me? Because when I look at you, I don't see any of that. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. I see someone brave enough to survive. Someone kind enough to care. Someone real in a world full of facades. His hand lifted, hovering near my face but not quite touching. I see the person who stayed with me all night when I was sick. Who makes me laugh. Who makes me want to be better. Why can't you see what I see? The tears fell freely now. Because I'm scared, Caspian. Scared of losing you. Scared of being a burden. Scared of what? Of being happy. Because every time I let myself be happy, it gets ripped away. He pulled me into his arms then, holding me tight as I fell apart. I'm not going anywhere. Do you hear me? I'm not leaving. You should. I sobbed into his chest. I'm not good for you. Let me decide that. He tilted my face up to meet his eyes. I'm asking you one more time. No more secrets. No more hiding. Can you do that? Can you trust me with all of it, the good, the bad, the terrifying? I searched his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, the desperation, the love he wasn't quite saying but was showing in every line of his face. I can try. That's all I need. He pressed his forehead to mine. Just try. We'll figure out the rest together. He kissed me then, and it felt different from before. Less desperate, more grounded. Like a promise being sealed. The next few weeks felt like walking on air. We stopped hiding completely, well, from each other at least. The staff didn't need to know, but between us, all walls came down. He told me about his business struggles, his fears about never being enough. I told him about my childhood, my brother's descent into addiction, my own guilt for not saving him. We were healing each other in ways neither of us expected. Then came the day everything shifted again. I was cleaning the living room when the doorbell rang. Mrs. Lang answered it and a man walked in. Tall, attractive, with a confidence that filled the space. Something about him seemed familiar, though I'd never seen him before. Caspian was coming down the stairs, probably heading to his office. He stopped dead when he saw the visitor. The color drained from his face. Mason? My blood turned to ice. This was Mason. The first love. The one who left. Mason's smile was warm but his eyes were calculating. Hello, Caspian. It's been a while. Caspian couldn't speak. Just stared like he was seeing a ghost materialize in his foyer. I hope I'm not intruding. Mason's gaze flickered to me briefly, assessing, before returning to Caspian. I was hoping we could talk, privately. Caspian nodded mechanically. My office. This way. As they walked past me, Mason's shoulder brushed mine. He didn't apologize. Didn't acknowledge me beyond that initial glance that made me feel like an insect under a microscope. The office door closed. I stood frozen in the living room, duster still in my hand, heart hammering against my ribs. He was back. The ghost from Caspian's past had materialized, and I had no idea what that meant for us. Mrs. Lang appeared beside me. You all right, dear? You look pale. Who is he? No idea. Never seen him before. But the way Mr. Hale looked at him, she trailed off meaningfully. I forced myself to keep working, but my hands shook with every movement. They were in that office for hours. 3 hours that felt like 3 years. I found excuses to stay nearby, listening for raised voices, for any clue about what was happening. When the door finally opened, Caspian looked shattered. Mason emerged looking satisfied, like a cat who'd caught a particularly interesting mouse. Think about what I said, Mason called back as he headed for the door. You know where to find me. After he left, I approached Caspian carefully. What did he want? He didn't look at me. I need to be alone right now. But, please, Scott, just give me some space. I need to think. He walked away, leaving me standing there with a sick feeling spreading through my chest. Mason was back, and somehow I knew everything was about to change. The next 72 hours were torture. Caspian retreated into himself completely. Not avoiding me exactly, but definitely not present. He'd look through me instead of at me. His mind clearly somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't follow. On the second day, Mrs. Lang told me he'd requested I not be disturbed while working. Translation, stay away from me. The third day, I broke. I didn't knock this time, just opened his bedroom door and walked in. He stood by the window, backlit by afternoon sun, looking more alone than any person should. I thought I made it clear. I don't care what you made clear. I closed the door behind me. We're going to talk about this. There's nothing to discuss. Like hell there isn't. My voice rose despite my best efforts to stay calm. Mason shows up out of nowhere and suddenly you can't even look at me. So yes, we're discussing this. Right now. He finally turned to face me and the anguish in his eyes nearly broke me. He wants me back. 3 words. That's all it took to make my world tilt sideways. And I don't know what to do. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. For 5 years, Scott. 5 years I wondered why he left. 5 years of questions with no answers. And now he's here saying it was all a mistake. That he was scared of how much he felt. That he's ready now. Ready for what? For us. For everything he ran from. Caspian's voice cracked. He's asking for a second chance. The room spun slightly. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. What did you say? I said I needed time. To think. To figure out. He gestured helplessly between us. To figure out what this means. What we have or what you had. The question came out sharper than intended. Because those are 2 very different things. I know that. Do you? I stepped closer, needing to see his eyes. Because from where I'm standing, it seems like the minute your past showed up, our present stopped mattering. That's not true. Then tell me you love me. The words escaped before I could stop them. Tell me that what we have is real and worth fighting for. Tell me I'm not just some consolation prize until something better came along. Scott, tell me. My voice broke. Because I need to know if I'm fighting for something real or if I've been deluding myself this whole time. He closed his eyes, jaw tight. I can't tell me or can't choose me? Can't think straight when you're looking at me like that. His eyes opened, blazing. You want honesty? Fine. Yes. Part of me still loves Mason. He was my first love, my first everything. For 5 years I've had this unfinished chapter haunting me. And now he's here offering closure or maybe continuation and I don't. He broke off, breathing hard. I don't know how to turn the page when I never got to finish reading it. The admission hurt worse than any rejection could have. So where does that leave us? I don't know. He looked as lost as I felt. I need time to talk to him. Really talk to understand why he left. What changed. What he wants now. I need to mow that door properly before you can what? Move forward with me, or move back to him. I laughed bitterly. You're asking me to wait while you figure out if I'm worth keeping. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Caspian? Explain it to me. Because right now it feels like I'm competing with a ghost and I don't know how to win against a memory. He reached for me but I stepped back. The hurt that flashed across his face was immediate and sharp. I need time, he repeated softly. Just time to sort through this mess in my head. Can you give me that? Every instinct screamed at me to say no. To force him to choose right now. To make him see that if he really loved me there wouldn't be a choice to make. But I also saw the genuine confusion in his eyes. The pain. The conflict. How much time? I don't know. A week? Maybe less. I just need to talk to Mason, get answers to questions I've carried for years, and then I can. Fine. I cut him off before he could finish. Take your time. Sort through your feelings. Figure out what you want. I headed for the door, then paused. But know this, I won't wait forever, and I won't be anyone's second choice. I left before he could respond, before I could see whatever emotion crossed his face, before I could take it back. The following week was hell. Mason visited daily. Sometimes they'd meet at the house, other times Caspian would go out to meet him somewhere else. I watched from a distance as they talked in the garden, shared coffee in the living room, laughed at private jokes I wasn't part of. Each interaction was a knife twisting deeper. On the 4th day, Mason cornered me in the kitchen. He poured himself coffee like he owned the place, then turned to study me with those calculating eyes. "You're Scott." It wasn't a question. "Yes. Caspian mentioned you. Said you work here." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Must be convenient. Living where you work. Job security and all that." The implication was clear. I was the help. Temporary. Replaceable. "I do my job well," I said stiffly. "I'm sure you do." He moved closer, invading my space deliberately. "But jobs end, Scott. People move on. Especially when something better comes along." He picked up his coffee. "Just thought you should know. I'm not going anywhere this time. I made a mistake 5 years ago. I won't make it again." He walked out, leaving me gripping the counter hard enough to hurt. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't keep watching Caspian drift further away. Couldn't keep competing with a past I had no hope of beating. I needed answers. I found him in his study, staring at paperwork he clearly wasn't reading. "Have you decided?" He looked up, startled. "Scott, just tell me, him or me. Past or present. Because I can't keep existing in this limbo where I don't know if you're mine or if I'm just keeping your bed warm until he's ready to take his place back." "That's not." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "Because tomorrow he's taking you somewhere for the whole day. Mrs. Lang mentioned it. And I need to know, are you coming back to me? Or are you already gone?" He stood slowly, moved around the desk. When he touched my face, I almost pulled away. Almost. "I love you." The words should have brought relief. Instead, they felt incomplete. "But," there shouldn't be a but. "But I need to know if what Mason and I had is really over. If there's any chance." He stopped at my expression. "I need closure, Scott. One way or another. Give me tomorrow. Just tomorrow. And then I'll know. And if you choose him," his eyes glistened, "then I'll spend the rest of my life apologizing for not being brave enough to choose you first." It wasn't good enough. But it was all I had. "Okay. Tomorrow. But after that, I need an answer. A real one." He nodded, kissed me softly, and I hated that it felt like goodbye. They left early the next morning. I watched from my window as Caspian got into Mason's car, watched them drive away, watched my heart leave with them. Then I did the only thing I could, threw myself into work until my hands ached and my mind went numb. By evening I was exhausted and empty. I'd cleaned rooms that were already clean, organized spaces that didn't need organizing. Anything to keep from thinking about where they were, what they were saying, what decision Caspian was making. At 8 o'clock I heard a car pull up. My entire body tensed. I forced myself to stay in the kitchen, hands deep in soapy water, scrubbing dishes that were already spotless. Footsteps approached. My heart hammered. "Scott." I turned. Caspian stood in the doorway alone, hair windswept, eyes red. He looked like he'd been crying. "Where's Mason?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Gone. For good this time." I set down the dish carefully. "What happened?" He moved into the kitchen slowly, like approaching a wild animal. "We talked, really talked, about why he left, why he came back, what he wanted." He stopped a few feet away. He said he'd been scared back then. Scared of commitment, of the future, of how deeply he felt. So he ran. Spent 5 years regretting it. Came back hoping we could start over. Each word was a needle to my chest. And I realized something while we were talking. His eyes met mine finally. I spent 5 years building this idealized version of what we had. This perfect memory that couldn't be touched or tarnished. But today, sitting across from him, listening to him explain himself, all I could think about was you. My breath caught. I thought about how you stayed with me when I was sick. How you make me laugh. How you see me, not my money or status or reputation, just me. I thought about morning coffee and late man conversations and the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. He took a step closer. I thought about how being with Mason felt like visiting a museum. Beautiful, nostalgic, but ultimately lifeless. And being with you feels like coming home. Tears blurred my vision. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I told him no. Told him we were done 5 years ago and we're still done. Told him the only person I want is you." He closed the distance between us, hands hanging my face. "I'm saying I choose you, Scott. I choose this messy, complicated, beautiful thing we're building together." "Are you sure?" I needed to hear it again. Because I can't do this if you're going to wake up one day and regret it. If you're going to wonder what if. I'm sure. His thumbs wiped away my tears. I'm so damn sure it terrifies me. Because you're right, you're not my second choice. You're my only choice. The one I want to wake up to every morning and come home to every night. The one I want to build a life with. I kissed him then, pouring everything I'd been holding back into it. All the fear, relief, love, hope. He kissed me back just as desperately, holding me like he'd never let go. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm sorry I made you wait. Sorry I couldn't see what was right in front of me. Just don't make me wait again. Never. He kissed me softly. I promise. The next few weeks felt like living in a dream. We stopped hiding completely. Caspian sat me down with Mrs. Lang and formally explained our relationship. She'd smiled knowingly and said she'd figured it out weeks ago. The other staff adjusted quickly, treating us with professional respect tinged with warmth. But we both knew the real challenge was yet to come. I want to go public, Caspian said one evening on the terrace. We'd taken to watching sunsets together there, his arms around me, the world spread below us. I want people to about us. Are you sure? The media will tear us apart. Let them try. He kissed my temple. I'm tired of hiding the best thing in my life. You deserve better than shadows. So he scheduled a press conference. Announced he was in a serious relationship. Refused to name me specifically, but made it clear he was committed and happy. The media went wild with speculation, but he held firm. Then came the article. A reporter had done their homework, tracked down my information, dug into my past. The headline screamed across my phone screen, "Business Tycoon Caspian Hale Dating Former Debtor, Love or Manipulation." The article detailed everything. My brother's gambling debts, Caspian's payment, how I'd come to work at his house. It painted me as a gold digger, suggested I'd manipulated him, questioned whether our relationship was real or transactional. I read it 3 times, each pass making me feel sicker. By the time Caspian found me, I was in pieces. "It's all lies," he said fiercely, after scanning the article. Every word designed to hurt and humiliate. But they're not complete lies. I looked up at him through tears. The facts are real. The timeline is real. They've just twisted it into something ugly. Then we'll untwist it. He grabbed his phone. "I'll release a statement, set the record straight." "No." I caught his hand. "That'll just make it worse. They'll dig deeper, find more, turn your life into a circus." "I don't care." "I do." I stood pacing. "Your reputation, your business. I won't be responsible for destroying what you've built." "You're not destroying anything. Maybe I should leave. Just for a while. Until this blows over." The words tasted like poison but felt necessary. "Give them nothing to write about." His face went white. "No. Absolutely not. Caspian." "No." He grabbed my shoulders. "I told you I wouldn't leave you. That promise goes both ways. We face this together or not at all. But your company will survive. I'll make sure of it." His grip gentlened. "But I won't survive losing you. Not for this. Not for anything." So we fought. Together. He released a detailed statement explaining our relationship's true timeline. My brother gave an interview taking responsibility for his debts. Caspian's colleagues and friends publicly supported us. Slowly, painfully, the truth emerged. The original article was retracted. Apologies were issued. We won. Months later, on the same terrace where we'd watched countless sunsets, Caspian got down on one knee. "Scott Quinn," he said, pulling out a ring that caught the dying light. "I know we've had a complicated journey. I know we've faced obstacles and doubt and pain. But through all of it, you've been my constant, my home, my heart." His voice cracked with emotion. "Will you marry me? Will you build this crazy, beautiful life with me?" I could barely see him through happy tears. "Yes. Always yes." He slipped the ring on my finger, stood and kissed me as the sun dipped below the horizon. Behind us, the house that had once felt like a prison now felt like a sanctuary. The place where I'd found not just safety but love. Where I'd learned that sometimes the person who saves you is the same person you save in return. Where I'd discovered that home isn't a place, it's a person. And Caspian was mine. As I was his. Forever.